Lee Wallach. We're each and every day at 8 a.m. as we explore this journey. We explore this thing that is life, and we're so excited to be here because life allows us to use our senses. And our senses allow us to have experience. And contrast is there, and contrast lets us have experience. And contrast is important because without contrast, there is no experience. But what is true love? True love is going beyond experience. It's going beyond the senses. It's that place in between. It's that balance. It's that connection with all that is, where there is no experience. It is undescribable. But yet we as humans, we have created all these words. We've created all these holidays. And today is that day, isn't it? Today is Valentine's Day. And this is the day of love. And what do you do on a love day? I'll tell you what you do on a love day. You buy candy. You buy flowers. You go out for special meals. You buy a card. Got to get a card. Did you ever notice what the price of cards is these days? My goodness. And when you've done all that and you've given all that in a matter of seconds, any feeling of connection, any feeling of joy is gone. Why? Because all of that is an illusion about what love is. All of that is how we have been domesticated into believing that's what love is. Isn't that fascinating? And we just don't. We keep taking, my partner didn't do this, my partner didn't do that. Well, you were just domesticated differently. I love that word domesticated because that's what we have been done by our parents, by television, by our religions, by everything. So Annette says all of the relationship in her life are loving except one, and that person annoys me and angers me, and you avoid them. Here's what it is. I don't know what your relationships are, Annette. Only you do. Here's what I do know about relationships. If you accept all aspects of the person and you have complete balance as you think about that person, that is love. Liking has nothing to do with love. Liking is a human emotion. It's a human trait. It's not the divine trait of love. That's one of the things I really, getting along with people has nothing to do with love. Seeing balance is love. Seeing that point where you understand the yin and the yang of a person and you accept them for what they are. Now I'm going way against what we've been taught. Because I will tell you, I have very loving relationships with my sons and my wife, and I have feelings about that. And at the same time, I see the balance. I see the other side. And you ask, why is this happening? I'll tell you why it's happening. It's pretty simple. What you dislike about that person is an unclaimed part about yourself. And that's what people do. They don't believe that they have the qualities that they dislike in someone else. Well, let me just tell you something. There are 4,628 human qualities, and every human being on the planet has all of those qualities. Whether you want to admit it or not, all those qualities exist within you, and to the degree that you own the fact that you have those qualities will be the degree that you can accept that others have those qualities and how they demonstrate them. When someone demonstrates a quality that you've not owned, that will fraz you. That will bring you to a state of yick. But when you understand that you have that quality, I'm not saying you like the quality. I'm saying you own the fact that the quality does exist. The possibility of that quality being demonstrating as you does exist. And it does. I've seen it demonstrated over and over and over and over and over and over again. We don't want to admit that we have the quality of a murderer in us. Yet in our lives, how have we demonstrated the fact that through maybe our words, through maybe our actions, through maybe our inactions, we've literally killed someone? Killing doesn't have to just be physical. It can be mental. It can be emotional. It's a hard thing to admit. It's a really deep spiritual grasp. Some people call it embracing the shadow. I just call it embracing all qualities. For me, that makes the most simplest sense about it all. And so life is not about always feeling good. That's the illusion of life. If you're attached to the illusion of life, you've bought into the opioid of the masses. Yes, the opioid of the masses, that we can be happy all the time. Hey, if you can be happy all the time, you might as well get rid of all the contrast, because you can't be happy without the contrast. And if there's contrast, guess what? You're going to experience the opposite of happiness. And to not expect that will lead you into a state of delusionment, will lead you into a state of depression. And the more you're depressed, the more you wire your brain, the more you stay there. And then you go to doctors and they don't have a clue about it. So they drug you up in order to what? Bring you into balance. Isn't that what it is? It's so funny. What are we doing? We're giving you chemicals to numb your mind so you go to balance. Well, you don't have to go get numbed up. You can just come into balance by how you look at things. Understand and see that the divine in you, that creative intelligence, is always in balance. It's always within you. You just got to peel back the persona that the ego has created, persona that the body has created about yourself. And once you've done that, you have found the place of love. That's why meditation is the number one reason to find love. Because in meditation, you find the gap between thoughts. You find the gap between feelings. You find the gap between the breath. You find the in-between, that state of perfect balance. And that's where everything lives. Zipline, Shazam, says, I'm focusing on divinity. In order to focus on divinity, focus on the balance. The balance is the way the divinity is. It's the way the observer is. The observer is the divine aspect. It cannot know anything but balance. It cannot know anything but balance. For it to know something other than balance would mean that there was something outside of it, which means it would not be infinite, which would mean it's not the divinity. And science has even said that consciousness is the ground of all being, so consciousness is infinite. Consciousness is another way of saying the divine, pure and simple. And consciousness that is balanced is tapped in to oneness, and oneness is the ultimate state or expression of the divinity. Can you feel the divine? Not in human words. It's impossible because humanity can only express in words of contrast. Do you get that? If there's no contrast, we can't express things. And so if you're expressing what is the divine through contrast, you're not expressing divine. You're expressing human elements you want to see in the divine. Human elements that can be experienced through feeling. Can you really feel the infinite? What would that feel like? I've been there. I have no words. Absolutely no words to define it. And no one that I know has words to define it. They simply say, be still and know. And that knowing is beyond the words. That knowing, getting to that knowing, is the real celebration of Valentine's Day. It's not about candy. It's not about flowers. It's not about cards. That's just the ego. The ego that's been conditioned and needs to be fed. So you're going to ask me, Lee, you're married. Did you get your wife anything for Valentine's Day? Did she get you anything for Valentine's Day? The answer is quite simple. No. Because love is a state that should be there all year, every day, every moment of life. I try, and notice I'm using the word try. I try to be loving as much as possible. Seeing the balance, being in the balance, coming back to balance all the time. I try. It's not possible to stay there all the time in the human mind. It's not possible to stay there all the time in the human body. It's not. But I come back to it. And when you come back to it, that's the state of love. So I think I've just said enough now. I'll be back at 10:30 Central Time. I'm going to be doing the Agape Celebration service online today from home because we're not going anywhere here in Texas where I'm at because there's ice everywhere, ice and snow. And you know what, in Texas, the truth of the matter is you're crazy if you go drive out there because nothing good is going to happen. So until I see you at 10:30 or the next time I see you, know that I accept you and I love you just like you are. Have a good one, everybody. Aloha.